With Injustice 2 coming out, a lot of people seem to think that the Injustice universe only exists within the video game, and in the video game there was already quite a few deaths. But us true comic fans are aware that there is an entire storyline that happens and is in continuity for the Injustice universe in the comics. There's a total of 5 years that happens within the comic book world, and technically the Injustice video game is actually year number 6. So we're gonna go through and count up all of the deaths and continuity weirdities that have happened within the Injustice universe of the comic books and the video game. Now bear in mind, I've already tried to record this once before and I lost count as we went through. So instead of me keeping track audibly, we're gonna put up a little kill count in the bottom corner of this video. So starting things off, we have year 1, issue number 1, in which we discover how the Joker tricked Lois Lane to come to the submarine, which is where he captured her, setting everything within motion. Well, Lois Lane went over there thinking that there would be a story, so she brought along Jimmy Olsen as her photographer, and the Joker shot him in the face, giving us a great line of, "I got some Jimmy on my shoe." We also then saw Batman showing up to a lab where he discovered the death of the Scarecrow, but there's a slight problem with that. The Scarecrow does show up later in the series, so either it was forgotten that he died here, or the guy later is a different Scarecrow. We don't really know, so we're not actually going to count him. So we're only going to stay at 1 right now. In issue number 3 of year 1, that was when Lois Lane officially died. You see, what happened is the Joker tricked Superman into coming into the submarine to stop a nuke, but the submarine was filled with fear gas. So Superman grabbed what he thought was Doomsday, lifted him up into the atmosphere where the fear gas wore off, and he discovered that he had just punched the crap out of Lois Lane, also killing her unborn child. So we're gonna count that as 2 deaths right there. In year 1, issue number 20, we discover an individual that looks like she was Jesse Quick dying in the actual explosion in Metropolis. And in the year 3 annual, we discover the fall of the Titans, where we discover that Kid Flash ran into the explosion dying, and Gar died as Superboy tried to shield him from it. Then the rest of the Titans went off and vanished into the Phantom Zone where Superman tricked them into going. Technically though, only Gar and Kid Flash died at this point, so that's just 2 more deaths. And then on issue number 4, we have the actual event that actually set everything in motion, the death of the Joker at the hands of Superman. In issue number 16, we have Nightwing dying when Damian and Dick decided to argue over what side Damian should choose, Superman or Batman. Like a little spoiled brat, Damian threw his weapon at Nightwing, hitting him just right so that he would fall unconscious, falling over. Then he landed on a rock, breaking his neck. In issue number 24, a bunch of parademons get killed by Superman, but we're not going to count up those guys because we're still unclear if they're real people with souls or what the deal is, because the Justice League always kills them. But he does kill Kelebek, the son of Darkseid. In issue number 32, Captain Atom is brought into the fray. He's a person that is basically a nuclear explosion contained within a power suit. In his fight against Superman and Wonder Woman, he actually does defeat Superman, but Wonder Woman gets involved, striking him with her magical sword, breaking his containment suit. With no other option, he flies off into space, blowing himself up. That's another death. And in that same situation, Oliver Queen was in Superman's Fortress of Solitude to retrieve the green strength pills that they were making that would make his troops as strong as him. Superman got in there and, furious that he thought that Ollie was going to attack his parents, who were also residing within the Fortress of Solitude, pummeled Oliver Queen until he died. Luckily, Oliver Queen fired an arrow with the green pill out into the snow for Batman to find. This brings us to the beginning of year 2, and in issue number 2, we discover one of the most unheroic deaths ever, as Sinestro arrives, removing Kyle Rayner's finger, the one that had the ring on it, so that Kyle Rayner lost all of his abilities. As he began to suffocate in space, Sinestro then tortured him, tearing him limb from limb. Literally. Then as the Green Lanterns came down to battle against Superman and bring him to justice, Chip died at the hands of Sinestro because Chip was small enough that he could actually affect Superman's brain with his constructs. Sinestro saved the day by killing the little chipmunk Green Lantern. In issue number 15, Sinestro proves his loyalty to Hal Jordan and the rest of the regime by killing off Despero in a rather humorous fashion. He put a yellow bubble around Despero's head so he couldn't breathe, and then he just died. Then in a heroic moment in issue number 20, James Gordon sacrificed himself to give the insurgency a fighting chance against the regime. In issue number 23, in the giant battle of the Green Lanterns versus the Yellow Lanterns, Sinestro did murder many Green Lanterns, but a significant DC character to die was Jon Stewart. And then in that exact same fight, Hal Jordan was fighting against Guy Gardner, trying to talk him down. And in his frustration, Hal Jordan tore Guy Gardner's arm off of his body. He then turned back into a normal civilian, and fell to the earth to die. At this point, Superman had gained the yellow ring, getting the powers of a Sinestro Corps member and his own Superman powers. He then pummeled Ganthet into the planet of Mogo, killing both Mogo the living planet and Ganthet. Since Mogo is a living planet, we're going to count it as a death, and of course Ganthet died, so that's 2. This brings us to the beginning of Year 3, where we discover in a Year 3 annual that Constantine cost the lives of Dr. Occult and Rose Psychic in order to enact his plans of getting everyone against each other. Then, as he was trying to get everyone together and they were all hiding out in a magical house, Jason Blood and Harvey Bullock both died as the doors were blown off of this building. That was when we discovered that Spectre was now involved, but those 2 did die. Then, as we brought Ragman into the fight for issue number 8, Ragman went ahead and tried to contain Superman, and it was working, until the Spectre once again intervened, killing off Ragman. Spectre also then discovered in issue number 10 that Deadman was taking over Shazam's body, so he literally ripped Deadman out of Shazam's body, and that caused the death of Deadman, Boston Brand, a second time. Now, the powers of Deadman did pass on to the dead Dick Grayson, but that happens much later. In issue number 11, we see the Phantom Stranger pulling the Spectre out of the fight to ask him what he's doing. And then we discover that the Spectre is not actually the Spectre, it's actually Mr. Mxyzptlk, and he destroys the Phantom Stranger. In issue number 17, we see the death of Clarion as the magical conflict gets worse and worse. And then in 18, much to the dismay of Harley Quinn, her poor little detective chimp dies. Issue number 21 has the death of Huntress at the hands of Wonder Woman of all people. She throws her lasso around Huntress's neck and accidentally tugs just a little too hard, breaking her neck. This of course irritates Renee Montoya, as we see that she actually deeply cared about the Huntress. So she ends up popping as many strength-granting pills as humanly possible, and in Year 4, issue number 4, she ends up practically committing suicide by fighting against Superman until her heart gives out. In Year 4, issue number 13, now that the old gods are involved, we see the death of Hercules as Superman zooms in from space, killing him in one hit. In issue number 23 of Year 4, we also see the death of Artemis. Artemis died protecting the mother of Wonder Woman, Queen Hippolyta, and she died at the hands of Hera. When the Year 4 annual, when the grand prison break is actually happening, Sinestro begins to panic that everyone's about to get free, and then he uses the yellow light to shoot through the glass bubble, breaking it and killing Kilowog. We've now entered Year 5, where things get even crazier, and it begins with Superman literally throwing the villain Parasite into the sun. Like, that's just, I'm done with you. Into the sun with you. And then in Year 5, issue number 10, Heatwave and Weather Wizard die as Bizarro has now entered the fray, but he doesn't know what he's doing, and he gets very mad very quickly. When we finally reach issue number 16, Jason Baird dies due to creating his own anti-regime group called the Joker Underground in an attempt to rally them against Superman. But Superman arrives during one of their big, I guess, Joker Underground conventions and just burns them all alive, killing off Jason Baird. Then in Year 5, number 18, and another rather humorous death, the Trickster dies as he's now befriended Bizarro and he's trying to teach Bizarro manners. Bizarro's flying Trickster across the world, and the Trickster told him that if he's going to sneeze, he has to use both hands to cover his mouth. So even though he's carrying the Trickster, Bizarro goes to sneeze and then he covers his mouth, dropping the Trickster. Through a series of events, Bizarro then ends up meeting up with Superman, and Superman is fighting against Doomsday. Doomsday then grabs Bizarro and crushes his head, killing him in issue number 20. And in issue number 23, Victor Zsasz, who has been set free ever since the prison outbreak at the beginning of Year 5, goes and kills Alfred. Now, it's heavily implied that Superman arranged for this, but we aren't actually 100% sure. He never confirmed nor denied that he had any involvement in the death of Alfred. In issue number 28, this is when the Flash starts to realize that maybe he shouldn't be sided with Superman, and in an attempt to figure out what he's doing, he throws a broom into the King Shark, killing him. And then in issue number 32, Hawkman shows up to take his wife Hawk Girl or Hawk Woman, I forget which one it is in the actual Injustice storyline, but either way, he shows up because he doesn't like that she has sided with Superman. Superman beats the tar out of him, killing him. In issue number 36, we see that it was Damian that actually killed Victor Zsasz in the end, and that it was Sinestro that arranged for this entire event to actually happen. In issue 36, we have Metamorpho potentially being killed, but we're not actually going to count it because there was no confirmed death, but he fought against Deathstroke. Now in the actual video game and in Ground Zeroes number 19, we have the death of Lex Luthor as he tries to stand up against Superman finally. And then in the story mode of the main game and Ground Zeroes number 20, we have the death of Shazam, which is one of the more pivotal moments where it makes a lot of the regime realize maybe they should be siding with Superman, he just killed a kid. Also, while I know he's not a real core character, we're gonna go ahead and count Gary, one of Harley Quinn's dearest friends in the Ground Zero storyline, and the individual that helped her realize that she can be a hero and not a villain. And that concludes the death count for the actual game in the first 5 years of the comic book. Now, there's already been a good number of deaths in Injustice 2, the comic series, and the game, I'm sure, is going to bring a lot more to the table as well. But we're not going to count them right now. So whatever that total is, because I tried to do this twice now, and I've miscounted all the way through, it is now on the screen down below. And let me know, did we miss any of these kills and kill counts? I kind of remembered as many as I could, and we confirmed them through various other lists happening on the internet, but overall, I'm pretty sure we covered most of the deaths. Let us know if we missed anything down below, and let us know what you think about this incredible storyline, and I'll see you next time right here. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date on the Injustice comic series and various Injustice videos.